evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Radio Network and Sports Corner with the Conn Man. I am your host, the Conn Man. And this evening I have with me, waiting for him to come on, is the one and only Chris Smith. Folks, you know, I want to read you his accolades once he comes on. But Chris Smith had one outstanding collegiate career. I'll talk about it. His assistant coach at that time was Dave Later, who happens to be one of my best friends. I mean, we go back since 11 years old. You know what I mean? So me and Dave have had that, that bond since we were about 11 years old. Dave had a great high school career. He went on to play at Northeastern, and Coach Calhoun was coaching Dave. And what happened was Dave, after he graduated, he was captain, and Dave went out to California, looking for employment elsewhere. And Calhoun called him up last minute. Dave said he was in the shower, and Coach Calhoun said, "Hey, you want to be my assistant coach?" And Dave said, "Of course," because Dave at that time was making $5 an hour at a record shop. True story. And so Dave hopped on the plane, came down here, didn't know a damn thing about scouting, recruiting, didn't know anything. But Calhoun took him under his wing. Dave was with him 17 years. Then Calhoun went to UConn, and he had recruited one of the best players to come out of Connecticut, and that happened to be Chris Smith. And Chris Smith was no joke. What Dave used to do, I went to Framingham State, and Dave would send me the booklets, the collegiate booklets. They were like this thick, and he would send it to me like clockwork. So I was up on all, the Connecticut info, and every now and then, a good friend of mine, Eric Britta, would take me to go watch a UConn practice. And that's when I had laid my eyes first time on Chris Smith. And I just saw, I played Division III. I did my thing, but not like this guy. This tells you it was this was up here. And I mean, his quickness, his speed, he could jump, he could shoot. He had that dog in him, and what a phenomenal player. I hope he comes on. Because I want to say a little bit for him. But anyway, if while we're waiting for him to come on, my show is only an hour. And if I read all his accolades, but I'll give you a little something before he comes on. Well, he's from Bridgeport, Connecticut. He played during the 1988 through the 1992 season. He earned first team All Big East honors. He ranks first in UConn history in points, 2,145. All-time leader in three-point field goals, 242. He's the top scorer in Big East history. Check that out. You hear me? Top scorer in Big East history. Look how many players played in the Big East. Allen Iverson, Ray Allen. Do I gotta go any further? All right. He was the Big East Tournament MVP in 1990. He was a three-time All-Conference selection. He was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, I guess 1992. He played 3 seasons in the NBA. And then after that, he ended up going and playing overseas in France, Spain, and Israel. He also made UConn's All-Century team and UConn's Huskies of Honor. And in 2024, he was recognized as a Big East men's basketball legend, which is a outstanding honor, and to be given that honor is truly remarkable. And the reason why I wanted him on my show is to give him his flowers. he's a special dude, man. And I remember him when he was, from the get-go, before he was, established as he is right now. And he was one of the biggest recruits UConn has ever had in their history. Now you go back and look at UConn's point guards. Look, and for him to be above all of them is remarkable. You know what I mean? Kemba Walker, Shabazz Napier. There's a whole. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Kyle Hobbs. I can go back to when I played Kyle Hobbs and all that. And for him to achieve 2,142 points, that is absolutely amazing. What I wanted to also bring up is that, when I originally started doing these shows, what I really wanted to do, I'm talking about even before I was on this network, was bring up about the old Big East. I wanted to talk because that's when I was in the mix, and the Big East was the Big East. When you had Pat Ewing, you know what I mean? Crazy. The Big East was, rock'em, sock'em. Yeah, I mean, you go to the cup, you're going to get hit, you're going to get banged. It was like Detroit Pistons one-on-one. And it was so fun to watch. Great Pearl Washington. A lot of you guys, young guys who might be tuning in, never got to see him. Google him, go on Zoom, YouTube, or whatever, and go check out Pearl Washington. Phenomenal. And of course, Allen Iverson. Another one. You look at all the great point guards. John Bagley. But anyway, I want to go back to what I was saying about the Big East. There's been so much talent, and I was very fortunate to have Gene Smith, who played on the Georgetown NCAA championship team. He's been on my show twice, I think, and it was great talking to him. I also had Tony Bruin, who played for Syracuse. And that was great too. That was a great conversation. He was phenomenal. He was one of the very first leapers to play in the Big East. I mean, he had like a 48-inch vertical, and he had red hair. That's why they call him Tony Red Bruin. He was phenomenal, and I was really looking forward for Chris coming on the show, and I hope he does. Sometimes there's time differences, but I get kind of caught up in that. But I think he knows. So while we're waiting for him to come on, I just wanted to give him his flowers and let him know that, what a great player it was to watch him. But no, because I wanted him on here because I got some stories. Now, what Dave used to do, like I said, he used to bring us, we used to go up there, me and my good friend, Eric Bretto, and we go and watch practice. And folks, I don't know if you know, I think about it, I started laughing. Mr. Calhoun, Coach Calhoun, let's put it this way. I recall him using more F-bombs than non-F-bombs. And there was one situation. Now, I think this was after, because Dave was coaching at UConn for quite a while. And we used to go and visit quite a bit. And we'd be checking out the practices. And here's one situation. Y'all gonna love this one. They had a great guard. His name was John Gwynn, if I recall, that was his name. Anyway, so now they're practicing up and down the court, right? And at very fast pace. Now, John Gwynn, he had a stuttering problem. So Coach was shouting out some expletives. You can imagine what I'm saying. And anyway, John Gwynn, first he yelled at John Gwynn. And then maybe the next play or the play after that, they were doing some type of play that maybe he didn't run right. So Coach Calhoun was screaming on him at the top of his lungs. John Gwynn goes, "But." Coach said, "But this, get your, you know what, out the gym." And he kicked him out the gym. He kicked him out of practice. But it was so funny because he was like, "But." He's trying to talk. But as I said, he has a stuttering problem. And it was, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, this guy's crazy. And then there was another guy, 6'11" guy named Travis Knight. You guys might remember him. He played for the Knicks for a while. Matter of fact, he had a really good NBA career if you look him up. But anyway, he is from Utah. Utah, he's a Mormon. In most cases, from what I gather, Mormons don't swear. Well, and Travis at this time was a freshman. So again, it was practice, and Calhoun laid into him like you would not believe. But that was special times. And then I'll tell you one another quick story. Eric, one of my best friends in the world, he also big time high school referee, collegiate referee, CBA referee, the whole nine. Worked in the NBA, and but prior to that, he had called me to go officiate with him at a practice for UConn. A practice, you know how I'm just practice. This is a practice. Of course, I'm a little nervous. You know what I mean? I'm just starting my referee career, basically. You know what I mean? So now, UConn's practices, what they would do, it would be at that time no full court, nothing. Everything was done half court. Now I'm refereeing, and you know, I'm refereeing these. I'm 7 foot, 6'11", and these guys are flying. I'm like, whoa, this is out of my category right here. But you know, I stepped out, I did my thing. Well, at least I thought I did. So now I made a call. Now during the foul shot administration, I'm administering the foul shot. You hear me? I'm administering the foul shot. And my man Calhoun blasted me. I'm like, what? I'm not even getting paid for this. But yeah, he laid into me. I forgot what I did. I don't know. Maybe someone left the lane too. I don't even remember what it was. And all I could hear him yelling. Blah, blah, blah. Now this is practice. I'm volunteering to officiate. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. You know, I might have hung up the night before, but we won't go there. But anyway, so I'm up there, and you know, the scrimmage is going on. It was a half-court scrimmage, like I said. They weren't going full court. But you know, that's one of the great memories I've had too. But going back to, you know, my boy being the assistant coach at UConn, I was able to have accessibility to a whole lot of things, such as, you know, when they won the NCAA championship, I was there for the parade. I was there in the locker room. I got to meet everybody. I mean, it was a great experience. And a thing about Dave would have his cookouts, and he had his cookout. Now this is after they won the NCAA. Khalid Al-Amin, I think you guys might remember him, another great guy who ended up playing for the Chicago Bulls. And Kevin Ollie, another one. So we got to hang out, and I got to see them guys up close without them playing basketball, you know. And I found that they were all good people, dynamite people, and it was a pleasure just getting to know them. But you know, given the access that I had with Stretch, you know what I mean. And then when Stretch, I call him Stretch because you know we go back since 11 years old. And the funny thing is, folks, is when we were in 7th grade, we both were the same height, and we both had big afros like this. All right. And I remember I had a knee problem, and my doctor told me, you got something knee. I don't know, what does that mean? He said, well, you're gonna grow. That's why your bones are the way they are. You're gonna be real tall. I said, wow, there's nobody in my family that tall. So okay, cool. Anyway, Dave and I were the exact same height. Now, fast forward, he goes to California. Right? He goes to California. He comes back to New Bedford, and he's 6'8", and I'm 6 foot. I said, what the? How did this happen? Anyway, he came down, and you know, when we was young, Dave was not that good of a ball player, but he grew into his height and became outstanding high school basketball player, and someone from my hometown of New Bedford, Mass. Check this out, and that's why I wanted Chris to come on as well, because of course him and Coach Lato, they had much respect for each other, and I wanted to talk about that, and also his great career, NBA career. I had so many things lined up with him that I wanted to talk to him about. But as you know, sometimes things happen, and I was looking forward to having him come on the show, but sometimes the show must go on, and I guess I'll stick around and kick it a little bit, but because I got stories now, so I got stories. We have another show coming up, by the way, directly after this. We got my man Kyle Edwards. He has his own sports podcast called Chomping at the Bit, and Kyle and I go back a little bit, and Kyle and I have a let's say we have a difference of opinion on things, and I would tap on his show and I'd give my opinion, and me and him would go back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes I went on live on his show, and we went back and forth. So I really wanted to get him on my show so we can talk about some NBA, in which we will do in a little bit. So while we're waiting for him to come on and waiting for Chris to come on, I got so many. Man, I should write my own damn book. I got so many stories. But getting back to Dave at Northeastern, Dave had left UConn because he had told me one time, he said he had the 50-foot rule. And that 50-foot rule was wherever Coach Calhoun was, he was 50 feet away from him, because he really didn't. I'm sure he respected him, but he really didn't like him. I can understand why, to be honest with you. But anyway, he went to Northeastern, and they had his first year was outstanding. They had a player by the name of Lonnie Harrell. If you ever watched the M1, you would know about Lonnie Harrell. Well, when Lonnie was at Northeastern, Lonnie was like one of the best players in the country, but he left after Dave's first year. So Dave's second year, I think they went, they had a horrific season. Dave didn't get fired, but he said, look, I need to go back. I need to go back to UConn. I need to go back and learn. And while he was there for all them years with Calhoun, don't get me wrong, he learned, but he didn't learn how to be a head coach. He learned how to be an assistant coach. So he said, I need to go back and learn. And he went back with Calhoun. He took it all in. And then I don't know how it happened, but he ended up getting a job with the University of DePaul. And we were so proud of him, man. I mean, to go from assistant coach at UConn to head coach at Northeastern, back to UConn to learn about his craft. Then he got a job at DePaul. Now, check this out. So he gets his job at DePaul, and we're all excited. We're pumped. Unbelievable. So we decided to do a road trip. So we go to the University of, I'm going too fast. When he was at DePaul, of course, I didn't get a chance to go to Chicago, which I was given invitations, but I never went. But I wanted to, but I never went. But he was there, and he had his time there, and DePaul did pretty well. Then he gets the opportunity to go to the University of Virginia, the very first Black to be a head coach of a basketball team at University of Virginia. Check that out. Anyway, so now we decide, okay, we're going to go for a road trip. So we go to University of Virginia. I think the first time was a drive, or did we fly? I don't remember. I got dementia. So we go to the University of Virginia, and he got this big house. You know how that goes. So we go, and Dave takes us to the practice, right? But it was the girls were practicing, not the boys. The girls were practicing. So we said, okay, well, let's go take a tour. Let's go take a tour. So we walk around the building. Now, mind you, it's a brand new building. I think it's called the John Jones Building, whatever it's called. We walk around the facility. So we walk around, and there's a bend. We walk around the bend, and we got our heads. We're talking like this, and then all of a sudden we look up, and we look up, and we look up. There is a thing from the ceiling, or what do you want? I don't know what you want in the hall. I mean, 40 feet maybe of him, of Dave in the suit. And we're looking at it, and we all started crying. We all started crying. I mean, right from the hood where I was, and it had to be 40 feet. I'm not exaggerating. So what we did was we got underneath it, because it was from here, and we all got underneath it, and we took a picture, and someone has it. I'm sure someone still has that picture. I'm gonna try to get it and show you guys on the show. But what a great thing, man. Growing up together, and for him to absolutely amazing. Yeah, and but again about Dave not only went to coach at Northeastern, UConn, back to Northeastern, back to UConn, DePaul, Virginia. He also went to Missouri. Yeah, it was Missouri. And what's his name? Clarkson, who plays for the Knicks, was on that Missouri team. He went there. He went to Tulsa. And I'm forgetting another one. And then he gets a job back at DePaul. All right? He gets a job back at DePaul. I think he signed a 5-year contract. I think. So imagine that. Kid from New Bedford, Mass, who was working at a record shop making $5 an hour. And that's facts. And then look at him. And he had, wait to hear the story because it's gets better. After he got fired, after I think 2 or 3 years, coaches get fired left and right. And he took his time. He got paid, and he took his time to find out what he wanted to do. He ended up coaching the Maine Lumberjacks in the CBA. Also, my man, what a career! He did that, and then like I said, he took his time. He could do whatever he wanted to do now because he was under no obligation to be with anybody. So he ended up getting a job. Now here's where this all comes in. All right, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. In 1991-92 season, Dave was assistant coach. Now watch how this all turns full circle. Chris's team, they made the second round of the NCAA tournament. Check out the roster. Brian Fair, I don't know if you remember these guys. I'm saying names that you may or may not remember. Brian Fair was about 6'3", 6'4" guard, big-time scorer, great player. Rod Sellers, you all remember him? He played in the NBA. Y'all remember Donyell Marshall? I know you know who that is. He had a 12 or 13-year career. I think at one time he had the record for most three-pointers in the game. At one point, I think he had 12. Donyell Marshall. Here's another guy you may be familiar with, Scotty Burrell. Scotty Burrell played on the Chicago Bulls. He played with a guy by the name of Michael Jordan. Dan Cirillo, good college player. I don't think he went to the NBA. Now, this next guy, y'all gonna know this next guy. His name is Kevin Ollie. Kevin Ollie, I don't know how, and Chris Smith, by the way, I do not know how they did not win the NCAA. I got to find out who was playing that year, who they were going against. But anyway, Kevin Ollie, outstanding guard. Now, Kevin Ollie, I'm not sure if he got drafted or not, but I remember, now this one, you want to talk about hot and soul. I remember because my boy Eric was coaching CBA, and every now and then he would ask me if I wanted to go to a game if it was like in Connecticut, whatever, or New York. Nah, I'd be his co-pilot. So the game was in Connecticut, and Kevin Ollie was playing. Now this is the C League, what's that called? CBA or whatever. C League. It was one of them damn leagues. But anyway, he was playing in there. He played very well. And so when I'm saying he grinded his way to the NBA, I mean, my man did everything possible in order to make the NBA. Now, I could be wrong, but I think he had a 14 or 15 or 16-year career in the NBA. He was not, I don't know if he ever started, but I know he played a key role in all the teams he's been on. Now, you guys may say, well, damn, if he was that good, why did he play on so many damn teams? Because every team needs a leader. Every team needs someone who has no problem coming off the bench. Every team needs a person who knows his role and accepts his role. And they're not a nuisance on the bench. They're not, creating bad blood. Kevin Ollie was not like that. That's why a lot of teams would pick him up in a minute because he wasn't a problem, which I can relate to because there's a guy right now on the Cleveland Cavaliers, that same type of player. His name is Schroeder, Dennis Schroeder. You know me, I'm bad with names. Look how he's been on 11 teams. But guess what? He'll always in the spot because he is one of them players that is a good team player. And, a lot of times when you want to throw your bench, you want to have quality people who are not going to give you a problem. And Kevin Ollie definitely was one of them and became one of the most respected players in the NBA. And then, Coach Calhoun loved him. And I think he ended up being an assistant coach at UConn at first. And when Coach Calhoun decided to retire, he made it a point to make sure Kevin Ollie got that job because he had been the first black head coach at UConn basketball. So Calhoun did it so where because there was a lot of people didn't want Kevin Ollie on the job, and Calhoun, I forgot how he maneuvered it, but he did something so whereas Kevin would get that job, and he ended up getting the job. And guess what? They won the championship that year. And here is my boss, Key Williams. How you doing, Key?
I'm good. Yeah, I don't think you're. I sent out the email, so that one you may have to reschedule, but it's all right.
Yeah, you know how it goes. Uh, but since I got you on, uh, what's your feelings on the playoffs right now? Let's go with the Cleveland, New York first, because I picked Cleveland, and of course I'm not looking too good. Who would you have in that one?
Did I have Cleveland? I think I might have picked Cleveland too. I'm not saying I don't like New York, and I know a lot of people didn't like Mike Brown. I don't know why you don't like Mike Brown as a head coach. He's pretty dang going good. Just look what he's doing with this Knicks team. You still got Cat in there. You got Josh Hart. Josh Hart will never shoot the ball like that ever again. I don't care what nobody
Never,
say.
never.
I, I don't care what nobody. Josh Hart is not shooting like that no more. But for him to have 24 points, it just seems like the Knicks can't miss right now. They should have lost the game one. I don't know what the Cavaliers was doing. I don't know what Kenny Atkinson was doing game one. There's no way you got a 22-point lead and you see that Harden is getting barbecue chickened by Jalen Brunson on the defensive end. Why you ain't make no adjustment? You go on a 30-7 run and you don't call a timeout? 30 I'm sorry, it was 30-8. You let New York go on a run and you don't call a timeout? You gotta stop. You either gotta call a timeout to stop their momentum, to sub in and out, make adjustments. You definitely shouldn't have had Harden on Brunson. Even Mike Brown said they was attacking Harden. And also they knew his move set. Everybody knows Harden's move set. He dribbles too damn much.
You know, boss, everything you said is true. And I was already upset to begin with. Then after the game, when you hear what Kenny Atkinson said, it got me even more upset.
No, I got timeouts. You like to save him. What are you saving him for?
You're guaranteed four. If you don't lose, if you don't use them, you're gonna lose two. You gotta use them. And like you said, you want to stop the other team's momentum. You know what they were doing? They were doing that pick and roll, and it was working effectively, and they kept going to it. They kept going to it. And I was like, what? I was like, when they were up 22, I was ready to hit everybody up. Yo, what's up? And then I had to keep my mouth shut. That
You
wasn't too
remember I
cool.
was calling out Jalen Brunson. I was like, "Ooh, 7 for 19." He shut me up. He shut me up. He was like, "Oh, keep talking about me. Let me show her."
Yeah, you know, and then the thing about it too is like now, last night's game, I think it was good. It was a decent game. The fact is that Brunson showed that he don't always got to be the ball hard. You
Right.
know, game before that, they had Towns doing, you know, the one that was distributing the ball. Even though they put him at the top of the key or at the foul line extended, and he was throwing great passes, and he was doing the damn thing. And then I don't know what happened to him. He got benched the game before, if you remember. They took him out because he wasn't playing well. So he came back. I guess he sent a message that he went. But
Teams
he went.
need to stop trying to get Harden on your team. If you trying to win a championship and you got James Harden in the equation, it don't work.
I have to agree with you. The guy got so much talent, but I don't know what happened. Well, you know, because you're Philly. You know when he played at Philly, and we got them two 40-point games against the Celtics, and then Game 7,
He
I was
disappeared.
looking for him on a milk bottle. I mean, I don't know where he went. I have no idea.
I don't know what Donovan Mitchell has to do. I don't know if he got to try to take over the game, but then his game ain't always on either. I don't know. The Cavs are a solid team. I think they're just a few pieces away. Harden was supposed to be an upgrade from Garland. It don't look like it.
And you know something, Bob? I want you to give me an answer. If you watched the game last night, Evan Mobley was killing him in the first half. He had 14 points, boss. Do you realize he didn't even take a shot in the second half?
Like, why are you going
Yeah,
away
that's
from something
good.
that worked? At one point, they cut it down to 8. I'm like, okay, the Cavs trying to
Yeah.
get back in this. Nope.
You mean to tell me, I know we could see it. You mean to tell me they didn't realize this dude was cooking? Let him eat. I don't get, I'm lost for words. I don't even know what the hell to say. I don't know. But I mean,
Look, if
I
the
know.
Knicks get another sweep,
Oh, forget
they
it.
gonna be real rested in the finals.
Yeah.
Stephen A. gonna go have a baby
You
because his Knicks is in the
may
finals.
have twins. Still may have twins. But you know what's funny is that Cleveland during these playoffs this year, they are a terrible road team. If you can look at their record, they're really, really terrible. I think going home, getting some home cooking, I think they'll play better. The bench plays better at home. And if you notice, Cleveland, they got shooters. And if they're not
Yeah.
shooting, they're not. Struce been playing out of his mind.
You
You
got
see
Struce, you
him?
got Merrill come off the bench, he can
Yeah.
shoot.
When they're shooting, they're tough to beat. But when they're
Look,
off,
give how about Jared Allen? What happened? Giving the ball to him more. He was cooking game 7. He had what 23 and 7. Like I don't. If y'all gotta find a formula that works and stick to it.
what
Foot
do you
on the
think?
neck.
What do you think, Coach, that great coach that he is, Coach Atkinson is going to do as far as his adjustment?
He better do something because if he don't win game 3, it's over.
Oh,
It's a
it's over.
wrap.
It's that would be that'd be a bad move. Obviously, obtaining Harden. Now, okay, so let's go to the Western Conference now.
Just a better series, in my opinion.
It's definitely a better series. We have San Antonio against Oklahoma City. Game 1, Wemby went berserk. You know, he went for what was it, 40 something, 24
40
rebounds.
and 20, 40, 41 and 24, I think.
something like that. He was acting a fool. And but as we talk about adjustments, you know what I mean? They made adjustment on game 2. They put Hottenstein on him on the alien,
Yeah.
and you know, they banged him up, slam, bang, rock and sock him, Detroit Pistons type, and it was more effective because Wemby now, if you notice, he took a little bit more outside shots in game 2 than he did in game 1. And also game 1, they put what's his name on him? What's his name? The guy that played for the
Caruso.
Knicks, Caruso, who was lighted him up. But they put him on him, and I thought that was a bad matchup. Even though I think they figured by putting a smaller guy and getting underneath him,
Hmm.
it would be effective. But obviously that didn't work.
But
So they ended up getting
I get Hardenstein is that type of player. Like he of course he's not going to give you a lot of points. He's not like an offensive type of guy, but he'll give you some rebounds and defense. But if you go back and look at Hartenstein's move, Wimpy is getting beat up and he's not getting no calls. But you know one thing is Wimpy gonna end up getting those calls because you know why? He don't complain. He go
no.
there, he get beat up. If he get the bucket, he gets his bucket and he go down the other court and get ready to play defense. He don't complain not once. These other guys, OKC guys, they going in, they flailing, they oh come on, OKC. This is why people do not like Oklahoma City. They are a team that flops and foul baits. It's ridiculous. It makes I don't know, like the game of basketball ain't about flopping and trying to get to the line and all this other stuff. SGA falls 50. They it was a stat. I just had it and I just seen it today. I put it in the chat. That's a wild stat. He falls every single time he shoots because he's looking for a foul. And I could have sworn in the rules at one time, Con. You quote me if I'm wrong. Didn't they say they was gonna start calling you out if you flopped? What happened to that rule, refs? What? So we just not gonna call it, or you
That,
just
that,
not?
that, was, that was a rule. That definitely was a rule. That was one of the major issues that they were having was of the flopping and all that flaring. You know, and thing too is Oklahoma City right now. They they're hurting. They're losing to what? JW's out, right? Isn't he out? I think he's out for tonight. JW.
Harper.
Yeah,
Harper. If Harper's out, Fox got to play.
right. With a high ankle sprain, it's going to be tough to do it. But Castle, I was calling him turnover. I mean,
Oh
he had
my
what?
God, he got more turnovers than these. I don't know. He can't turn the ball over.
He
Heck of a
can't be a
player.
good.
I mean, he posterized Hartenstein,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's
he
going to be
can't be
that.
making those turnovers.
Yeah, but he's not a point guard. So De'Aaron Fox, hopefully he does return. But San Antonio's tough too. But getting back to Oklahoma City, JW's out. That's going to be an issue, I think, as well. I mean, hamstrings, it's a soft
Yeah.
tissue. So, and then how about this? He had he was out because of hamstring on his right side. Now he's out with hamstring on his left
Oh,
side.
he just screwed all the way around, huh?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Well, I didn't even know that. I just thought he had that one. He had the one he had right now, but he at the beginning, middle of the season, he was out for the right one. So now he got two hamstrings. So that's going to be an issue. And what I wanted to ask you too, while I got you here, what do you think about repeating? I'm saying it's
It's
damn
hard
near.
to it's hard to repeat. It really is.
Last one was
Um,
Golden State, if I recall, when Durant played with him. I think that was the last time there was a repeat.
um, it's very hard to do a repeat. It's hard to get to the finals. Period. I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah, you the retaining champs. You were champs, so you got to defend your crown until you lose or get out the round. I'm not saying that Oklahoma City is not a good team because they are. They are. They got talented guys on there. Their bench is deep. You can play the bench a whole starting five on the bench and still will win a game. Oklahoma City is so deep. They got good people on that bench. They got the other Jalen Williams, that was our Arkansas. You got AJ Mitchell. You got Kason Watson. I mean, yeah, Watson. You got McCain, which I don't. I'm not gonna talk about McCain.
Oh,
Um,
did he play for Philly? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
and I was reading today when he was on the I think he was on the team bus on the way back from a game with the Sixers, and he said he literally cried when he heard he got traded, and then Daryl Morey called him. Like, he didn't want to go. I didn't want him to go either. I think he would have been a big valuable piece off for bench.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think
That's
we
cool.
would have got swept the way we did if because our bench didn't score, and he probably would have got that spark. But McCain is a spark off the bench. Isaiah Joe, he used to be in Philly too. Didn't give him no chance. He
See
out
you.
there, she got a high 3-point percentage, and he an NBA champion.
Oh,
So it's just like
oh.
OKC has a bench. He can, Mark Dagnall can put anybody in off the bench in a starting lineup and it'll work. That's why I'm telling people, you can have a good starting five, but if you don't have no bench help, when them starters do go out eventually and need rest, the Sixers ain't have no bench, and we went game 7, and we was tired. We couldn't do nothing. Our bench was poop, so that's why we lost. But if you don't got no bench, it ain't gonna work. Even look at the Knicks. The Knicks, you still got Mitchell Robinson. Um, he can't shoot free throws to save his life, but he's a good player. You got the veteran Landry Shamet. He can play ball. You got Deuce McBride. Don't forget about him. You got Jordan Clarkson. Alvarado can help you off the bench.
Yeah.
And Mike Brown is not Tom Thibodeau using 7 people. He uses everybody. So
And the thing is, the difference between Mike Brown and Thibodeau, Mike Brown can switch and make adjustments. With Thibodeau, this is how we're gonna play. That's it. And that's it. And that's it. Mike Brown said, "Okay, well, what can we do different?" And then he made his adjustments. And that's the difference with the Knicks, I think. And also, they had some good additions. Clarkson is a beast, and he's not getting as much playing time as, but they don't need him to. But I mean, he's a great veteran coming off the bench. Alvarado's a spot plug. You know what I mean? So yeah,
as
this.
much crap as I give Carl Anthony Towns.
Oh, hey, we can't tell him all the names
Look,
we
look, look,
call
look.
him.
As much crap as I give him, I can't even say nothing because he's done more than Joel Embiid did for Philadelphia. He's been to back Eastern Conference Finals. This man is potentially about to go to an NBA Finals. And if the Knicks win this championship, I can't say nothing about Carl Anthony Towns no more. You
I know.
can't call him Mr. No Show.
Hey, he's doing what's asked of him. Hey, every single game in the playoffs, he's gotten double doubles, and he's having almost 8 assists a game as well. So I mean, the guy's doing the damn thing. I know we got on him bad. We got on him bad, but so the people in New York. We ain't the only ones. But like now, what would it do for the Knicks if they won a chip?
Something right in that system there. Something, they, like I said, the roster from top to bottom is solid. It, in my opinion, it was Tibbs too, because Tibbs are rundown players. Like we always talked about Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges goes out there every single game. He no complaints at all. He goes out there and play basketball. You get paid millions professionally to go out there and play every game. He doesn't complain. When Mikal Bridges started complaining about Thibodeau and everything, I knew there was an issue somewhere. So you get a new coach. Again, Mike Brown ain't no slouch. He's good at what he do. So he knows his players' strengths and weaknesses. He puts a plan together. They execute. So
And what people fail to remember, boss, is that he coached that Golden State team when Kurt went
mhm.
out, and they had a 10-game winning streak. People forget he coached that Sacramento team that won 7 games. I mean, so he been there and done that, and he was on that team with a guy by the Cleveland team with a guy by the name of LeBron I think
Mm-hmm.
I was like that guy. But he was on the team with him as well. So I mean, he knows what he's doing, and he made the adjustments. And I think it's great for him because he was getting a lot of heat as well. And I think it's great for the city of New York. I mean, it's been since 1973. 73.
Yeah, I wasn't thought of yet. I, I wasn't thought of yet.
I mean, New York's going to go crazy. All right, let me
Yeah.
ask you another question. If they win, where do you put Big Body Brunson in the discussion of all time great
Well,
Knicks?
you would have to put him in there as far as like Knicks players, as far as. But then he was set. He because remember Becky Hammond said Bronson would never win. He's too small. So if Brunson goes out and win this championship, it will definitely prove that theory wrong. Um, but I still think the Knicks still need somebody more of a point guard to take the role off of Brunson, so he doesn't have to do so much. But it's working for him. So I mean, you saw yesterday's game; he really wasn't scoring like that, but he was dishing the ball out. So
14 apiece.
he's
Yeah,
gonna
he
have
was doing
there's gonna be games like that where he's not gonna be scoring all the time. Um, so but you would
and
have
here's
you would have you would have to put Brunson in one of the all time as far as Knicks as far as there because he will be the one to get you a championship after 20, 30 some odd years later.
now where would you I forgot that's my train of thought there for me. Uh now the Knicks, oh, I got it. Here's a bad thing for the NBA, and check this out. A lot of the teams, like unfortunately, I'm sorry, Keith, but your Philadelphia 76, I ain't gonna mention it. A lot of them teams are getting old. They're getting old. You look at San Antonio, look how young they are.
They the youngest. They the youngest. They the youngest team. I think you got Wimby's 22, Harper's 20. I think Castle like 2021. That whole roster is young. And Mitch Johnson is doing a hell of a job as a coach. I
Absolutely.
honestly think he should be coach of the year, if in my opinion.
He might get it. He might be. I don't. That he's done a phenomenal job. Now look how young they are. Now on the other side, Oklahoma City, another young to get a couple of older guys. But do you know how many damn picks they have? 13
I know
picks.
that's wild.
So they are going to remain young. And here's what what's really crazy. They're going to remain young and they're going to get these guys that are going to be making chump change for 3 years until their rookie contract is up. So they're going to be able to have salary cap. They're going to be able to have youth. They're going to have picks the way they can trade. I mean, what I'm saying is San Antonio set themselves up for years to come, and so has Oklahoma City, where the other
I
teams,
don't know. Sam Presti is like the Harry Roseman of basketball.
I don't know. It's crazy how he was able to pull this off. You know, but it's phenomenal. Now, well, we got a few minutes left. Let's talk about. There seems to be an issue that I want to bring up with you because you know more about this than me, guaranteed. What's up with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark?
Okay, switching over to WNBA.
Right,
So,
'cause you know that. You know that.
um, Angel Reese got traded to Atlanta
Yep.
from Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is not a bad move because Atlanta do got some pieces. They got Ryan Howard down there. They
Yeah.
got a good team down there. Um, Angel Reese clearly still needs to work on her game. I don't know.
Yeah. We talked
She
about
needs a
it.
mid range. She don't have a mid range.
Yeah,
If
we
she
did
would
about that.
develop a mid range, she would be dangerous. She still need to work on her feet, work a little bit around the rim because it's a lot of. I forget that one game where they were down. They still they was down like 20 something points to the Aces. Soon as they took her out and benched her, they came back. They lost by a point, but they
That was
came
a good
back.
game. That was a great
Um,
game.
they showed her. They showed her stat line. They like showed every possession by her. It was a missed layup, missed this, a foul. She got a rebound. She's a good rebounder, but it's just like she still misses layups, and like her feet work ain't there. So I don't know what it is. I know Lisa Leslie worked with her in the off season. I don't know if she just not put in the work during the off season. I don't know. I won't say this is a bad. It's not a bad trade. It wasn't. It's a bad trade because the season's still very much starting.
Yeah, I think that if she develops a mid range and a right hand, because right now she's all left handed, and she's more or less, rebounder as such. I think my boss has to go. Well, I'll talk about she goes. But getting back to oh, she back?
No, I'm
Yeah, I was
here. Just
saying.
give just give me a second. Keep talking.
You know me, I can do that. Angel, like I said, she should. Key and I had talked about it. When that game when the Atlanta played, I think wherever they played, that was a great game, 1 point game, and we was texting back and forth and saying, "Damn, she needs to develop a mid range. If she can develop a mid range, practice around like he said. Wonder what she was doing if she worked on her footwork because she's out there, modeling and all that stuff. I'm not saying that might be the issue, but I don't know how much time she put into to actual basketball skills. Because all the great players, what they do is each and every year they work on something that they need to work on, and I'll work on something different. Add something to your game. If you notice, a lot of players add something. If you remember Magic Johnson when he came in the NBA, he couldn't even shoot past 5 feet. And then look at him. He ended up being a decent, a pretty damn good 3 point shooter because he worked on it each and every year because you're being scouted. People are scouting you. They're knowing all your weaknesses. So every year you want to develop. Kobe Bryant's another one. And Michael Jordan, those guys, another one. But getting back to Angel Reese, I was saying, if she develops a mid range and learns how to use her right hand, I think that would be more beneficial for her. And like he said, her footwork. Now, my next question, I got you back to question number 2. There's rumblings going on that the Indiana Fever coach don't even like Caitlin Clark. Have you heard
So
that?
so there's an issue. They were saying the Fever could possibly get fined because Reese was. I mean, Caitlin Clark was suited up, but then they said she can't play. She was clearly not hurt. But I think it stemmed from there was a video that circled around. She was getting huffy puffy with one of the coaches on the bench. I don't know if it was assistant coach or it was a Stephanie White, but um, they were saying maybe low key Stephanie White stepped in and he was like, "All right, you can't play." Maybe suspending her or reprimanding her, maybe because of that.
Ooh,
But
ooh,
in my opinion, the Fever played better without her.
ooh, ooh.
So you already got Aaliyah Boston. You already got Kelsey Mitchell, who was phenomenal. She can
Yeah,
she's everywhere. She can create shots for herself and all. Um, Raven Johnson. If y'all don't know who Raven Johnson is, South Carolina. They picked up Raven Johnson, which was a shocker for me. I'm like, oh, Indiana picked her up. Interesting. She's a great defender. She can give you some buckets, but she's more of a she's that point guard. Great defense is legit. Can pass the ball. She can shoot the ball here and there. But if you need that floor general, Raven Johnson's it. They got Lexi Hall, they got everything. So Caitlin Clark's situation is different. But Kyle is in the back. If you want to talk to him, he knows WNBA. Um, you can ask his opinion on things.
Oh, we're gonna go at it. You're gonna laugh. We're gonna go at it.
He's a Boston fan, so you can have fun
Oh, we're
picking his
gonna go.
brain.
Uh, that was my boss, Key Williams. Uh, Look who's in the building with me now, folks. I want to introduce you to my guy, Kyle Edwards. Kyle has a great podcast, and Kyle, if you could let the viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so grew up, born and raised in Mattapan, big Boston sports fan, big Celtics fan. Love talking about it all the way from back in the barbershop as a kid, listening to people going at it. That's kind of where my passion really was cultivated. Uh, Moved down to the Atlanta area, like 20 years ago now. So still keeping in touch with the Boston teams, but also getting that Atlanta Southern exposure as well. And yeah, it's fun doing this. Look, appreciate you inviting me on. Should have started with that. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to going back and forth with you.
Well, you know how we do it. But before we get to that, what made you decide to start your own podcast?
Look, as somebody who's very much introverted and kind of quiet, it was kind of a long process, but I grew up wanting to do like sports radio. I was that kid who would be in bed listening to like EEI or something late at night, and I was like, yeah, I could do that. And then I, was really trying to think about what I would talk about if I would ever actually do it, because like I said, was kind of worried about getting the microphone and talking and people thinking I'm interesting or whatever. But eventually I was just like, look, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. If make it big or not, it's a passion of mine, and it helps me kind of creative and just lend my opinion.
Well, I've been checking you out for a minute, and I mean, you do an outstanding job, and I'm giving my shout out to you for that. Before we get into it,
Okay.
you talked about, because me, folks, I be tuning into his show, and he'll tell you we go back and forth at it, which we'll probably do in a little while. But before we go there, what I wanted to bring up, you said something I did not know. You from the Boston area. You said you like your Boston people and all. Well, how far back do you go? And with the powers when he was in Boston, because that might be a little. Because I know everything about Boston. I know you in the play. I probably know who they are, or probably played against them. So I don't know how far back you go.
Well, I mean, I was born mid '80s, so from about
Oh,
mid '80s to early 2000, I was in Boston, and then early 2000s, I moved down to the Atlanta area.
okay. So what do you recall from your Boston days? What do you remember? Who stood out? Because I'm from New Bedford, which is about 50 miles from Boston, so I'm very familiar with. So let's let the people know about your knowledge about the Boston scene that you couldn't.
So my probably first time dipping my toe into like the Boston sports scene. Big fan of Reggie Lewis. He was probably the first player that I could say I was a fan of, and obviously we know what happened to him. It was rough for me as a little kid, seeing that playing out on the news, and then ultimately what happened to him. It was rough, and once they opened the Reggie Lewis Center, I thought it was a really good omen to him, because look, he was supposed to be that guy. Once Larry Bird and them were gone, like he was supposed to take them into the next few years and beyond. So that was obviously a big deal. Obviously caught the end of Larry Bird's career, but I was one of those who, especially once got access to like YouTube and stuff or ESPN Classic, I would watch those old series with the Celtics and the Lakers to really understand the Magic and Bird aspect of the NBA and how much those two did for the NBA during that time. Because look, you had the finals on time delay and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
those
that's true.
Came in and were like rock stars. So I do remember that. Even those down years with the Celtics when it was like D Brown and Sherman Douglas and guys like that, Dino Raja, like I was watching it. I was here for it. Then obviously the Paul Pierce years. Big fan of Paul Pierce. He had that nightclub incident, which was a big news story. Didn't miss a game that season, and I was so happy when he finally got his title with KG and them, who I was a big fan of KG even in Minnesota. So when he got to Boston, I was the biggest fan. And, he kind of embodied like that Celtics pride, even though he hadn't been a Celtic for that long. Then obviously the current era with Tatum and Brown, big fan of those two as well. So, I go back to Reggie Lewis. I do know about, the guys who came before him, obviously, like Bill Russell, would watch a lot of stuff about him. Even like, Tiny Archibald or Dennis Johnson. So I know a little bit about some Celtics history dating Reggie Lewis as well.
Well, let me tell you a quick little story.
Okay.
And this will really get you upset. Before I came on with you, I was waiting for my guest, Chris Smith, who I'm going to have to reschedule. But I was talking about one of my best friends in the world, Dave Lato. I don't know if you're familiar with him. But anyway, he had played at Northeastern, and he was captain, and then played for Coach Calhoun. And then he moved to LA and worked in a record shop for $5 an hour. And then he got called by Calhoun to become an assistant coach. So Dave was assistant coach for Northeastern for many, many years. And Dave was the one that recruited Reggie Lewis. And if you remember Reggie, do you remember when he burnt his hand? You remember that incident? Oh, you probably don't.
No.
Yes, he had. You can look it up when we're done. You can look it up. He had a major problem with his hand. He burnt his hand. And I remember Dave telling me when he was at Northeastern, he said, I got this kid that he's really, really good. And I'm like, who are you talking about? He said, kid, Reggie Lewis. Who was that? And I told him, I said, he ain't playing no damn NBA. But anyway, we all know what happened. Yeah. And Reggie used to come down to Bedford quite frequently. So I got to know him real well. But anyway, fast forward. The year that after I played, I went to in fact, my sophomore year, I went to the Red Outback camp. And the year after that, Len Bias was there. Yeah. Len Bias was the Celtics pick.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And then he had a very sad incident. Now, think about him and Reggie on the same team. Can you imagine? Wow, that would have been unbelievable. Yeah, Boston had some bad luck, man. They've had some bad luck, even though I don't like them. But we'll get into that in a few. But so, what is the basis of your podcast, and why should people tune in?
So for me, it's look. I'm not one of those who will fake a reaction to a story. I'm not gonna try to. I mean, I know you understand, when you talk, like, you speak in like your own opinion, your own experience, and I do appreciate that. But I feel like kind of in this space, you get a lot of people who, like, you kind of watch them, you question whether or not they're authentic with what they're saying and their messaging. And I try to be as brutally honest with my reaction and what I say. And when people tune in, they should understand that anything I'm saying, I'm not trying to copy anybody. It's how I honestly feel about it. And I will do that with Boston stories, national stories, like whatever catches my interest. That's what I talk about.
See, that's another reason why I wanted you on my show, to give the viewers a different side of you, because you're very knowledgeable, and I enjoy watching it. I tune in as much as I can, and I totally enjoy what you're doing. So shout outs to you. And let's get back to where I want to pick your brain a little bit.
Yep.
Now, before we go into Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals, I want to talk about the losers. And I'll get your take. I want your feelings on them and what can they do to improve. I'm going to start off with Philadelphia first. What do you think was the reason why they lost? What do you think about Embiid? What's the future of Philadelphia? What are they going to do? They're strapped with a salary cap. Embiid, I guess he's due for an extension. What would you do to handle this whole situation if you had the opportunity?
I mean, that's tough.
I know.
So because I assume that they are stuck with the Embiid contract, which I believe he has a 3-year extension that kicks in this upcoming season. We know
Yes.
Maxey and Edgecombe are their future. I think the easiest probably way that they can navigate this is they have to kind of change their philosophy to now it's Embiid's on the floor, he's their feature guy. And not to say he isn't talented, but durability has been an issue. And it's going to be an issue when as he goes forward. Like after these 3 years, he'll be a 35-year-old player that has dealt with lower body injuries, and we know how debilitating that is for a big man. But he's still skilled. So I think what they need to do is somehow work the system to where Maxey and Edgecombe now kind of elevate into the spotlight. Like they have Paul George as well, who it'd be interesting to see what they do with him. I think he's fine in spots, but you can't watch Paul George today and think he's Paul George from the Pacers. Those are two different players. Now he's a little bit more crafty with, his shot creation now. Like he can still score, but he's not going to be that consistent, 30 point per game type of guy. So I think they need to somehow work it to where, yes, Embiid is on the floor with Maxey and them because he is still a threat for opposing teams, but you can't do it in a way where Maxey almost has to slow down himself to allow Embiid to join the offense. Because if you take away Max's ability to get downhill and use his speed, you're taking a big part away from him. And
Absolutely.
If he's going to be your future, what purpose does that serve to force him to be something that he may not be comfortable being right now? So,
okay.
Yeah, I think the ultimate plan would be maybe to find somebody who sees something in Embiid that, they can kind of push it off, maybe attach picks or whatever to him. That's a dangerous way to go, but it has to become more of a Maxey-centric team going forward.
I agree with you 100%. And they made a great firing. They fired that knucklehead.
Yeah.
Would you sign Embiid?
I wouldn't. I just can't feel confident in him heading towards his mid-30s with the issues. Every postseason run, it's like he's dealing with something. He has to miss a game or two. I can't see that getting better as he gets older. Like he's not the most, chiseled guy. Like he is a big guy. So I don't see him transforming his body at this point either. I think you have to make the best of it. And you almost have to hope for maybe an Eastern Conference type of year like this year, where a lot of the favorites maybe around you have their own little issues, and you can maybe find the right path to a conference finals. Because you have to remember, Embiid hasn't been out of the second round his whole career. So the first time he ever does that, he'll be in new territory, and we won't even know what he'll look like in a conference finals setting, or if he's fortunate enough to make the finals. So it's like the clock is ticking on Philly. That's the biggest thing with them.
I agree with you. I mean, they're in a very tough situation with a salary cap, first apron, second apron. Who knows what they're going to do? But you got a stud and Maxey, and Edgecombe is going to be another stud if he ain't already. So they do have something to look forward to, but the MB situation put them in a bind, unless, like you said, or maybe they just don't even sign them. Maybe I don't know who's going to take with that contract, who's going to take that kind of money. But I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be 35. It's not even worth it. And now let's go back to team number 2, the Detroit Pistons. Now, let me tell you before I get into, I said last year, next year they're going to be right. They're going to do it. And the way they started off this year, the way they played the regular season, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yes. I like the way they're playing. K's playing good. And then, the guy who I was like so impressed with, who ended up being the biggest failure for them. But anyway, Duran, all-star player, I watched the games I could watch. He was destroying people, man. And they don't run no plays for him. And he was still so effective. and then again to the playoffs. And then this is where I'll give it to you.
So with the Pistons, here's the tricky part, right? They're a young team with their best player, Cade Cunningham, still very young. So they're making steps. Like 2 years ago, they had the first round series where they probably should have beaten the Knicks, but their inexperience showed, and the Knicks were able to take them out late in a couple of those games. This season, you felt like from the regular season, like you said, they had reached another level, winning the Eastern Conference. Now, for them, I think what they realized was it's much different when you're middle of the conference and you're playing in the first round against the Knicks versus being a number one seed. When you're a number one seed, and we saw Orlando took them to the brink, and then ultimately they fell to, was it Cleveland? And you saw some inexperience with them late in a couple of those games. There was the game 6, I believe, in Cleveland, where they had the lead late, and Cade Cunningham had like 3 possessions where he turned the ball over. Stretches like that are what kill you in the playoffs. Absolutely. So now for the Pistons front office going into next year, you're like, so if we learn from that, we can expect Cade to be better. Duren, like you mentioned as well, he might be an all-NBA center this year. He now has to realize that once you make that all-NBA team, expectations go up. So he can't go into next year if they make the playoffs and be what he was this year, where there were nights where Jared Allen was playing him off the floor. Like Duren can't allow that if Detroit wants to be what they hope to be and a legit contender in the East. So you need growth from him. Tobias Harris is what he is. I know he's very inconsistent, but if he's your third or fourth option, as opposed to him having to be like your number 2, you feel better about him. So I would like to see Detroit go out and get another shot creator. I think that's their biggest need. Because right now, Cade has to do everything and create for everybody.
Do you think via trade, free agents, what route should they go? Or the draft?
I mean, draft is, look, if you can find it in the draft, that is the easiest way to prolong your title window. But if they can't find it there, I think they could probably make a deal, with a couple of guys and maybe find somebody, because you don't want, you're not looking for a ball dominant guy who's a big star. You just need somebody to complement Cade, so when teams, blitz him on a pick and he swings it to you, you're not sitting there just holding the ball waiting for Cade to get back open to give it back to him. Like, you need a guy who can operate one-on-one, create mismatches, and get to the rim. So I think they could find that in a trade. But hey, if you can do it in the draft, that's probably the best way to do it.
And with this year's draft being so deep, I think there's a possibility they could grab somebody. I don't know exactly what pick they have, but I'm sure they can grab somebody. Now, as far as doing what I was talking about prior to you coming on, is that the great players, each and every year, they add something to their game, so they can, because when you're at that level, you're being scouted. They're all looking at what you can't do, not what you can do, but what you can't do, and they try to come at you whatever way they know that something you can't do. Duren, I think some of these dudes need to go see Akeem Olajuwon and get some damn footwork and learn how to do post up moves, because it seems like he's just one dimensional. It seems like Duren, I may be wrong, but a lot of times it seems like someone's got to go to the cup and maybe throw him a lob or something like that, because they don't run no plays for him. His job is to basically pick some rolls and, get all the garbage. So I think he needs to definitely improve on his one-on-one skills and his low post moves. I think that would benefit him, because he's still young. And like you said, he's just learning. Not very rarely do you see people come in that age and be that effective, that, talented, right at an early age. Sometimes it takes 3-4 years to develop your skills, develop your confidence, learn how the league operates and all that things. Okay, now we'll go to the next thing, which I thought, I didn't think of. Matter of fact, I didn't even think about them this year. but they made the playoffs. Toronto. What do you think about that?
Toronto, look, Toronto is a very interesting team. Their best player, Scotty Barnes, who maybe because he plays in Toronto or kind of his style of play may not be regarded as this really great player. I think Scotty Barnes' best attribute is he knows who he is. He works hard defensively. He works hard on the offensive end, cuts, set screens, he'll roll to the rim. You can give him the ball and he'll operate a little bit one-on-one. He's not going to necessarily force too much because I feel like the way Toronto, even when Nick Nurse was there, like they love kind of playing a bigger lineup to make it tougher on offenses when they're on defense because they'll switch everything and you'll switch from one 6'7" guy to another 6'7" guy who can move his feet. I think for them, the biggest thing will be I almost want to see them get another star player so that Barnes can play off of somebody. Because right now, Barnes is their number one player. I don't know if he can be the best player on a championship team. Now, to just sit there and say, go get a number one option is pretty tough to do. But if they were to bring back the same team, then I think guys like RJ Barrett in the backcourt will probably have to elevate their game. And Brandon Ingram, who somebody I was a big fan of at Duke, I feel like his game is kind of stagnated. I would like to see him, and this might be, a buzzword or whatever, like develop his perimeter shot a little bit more. He loves taking those long 2-pointers. And we know in this game of analytics, they would love you to take that step back and knock down the 3. He's not really comfortable doing that. I think if he added that to his game, I think Toronto would be better off next year.
I agree. They surprised me this year. And Barrett played well. Ingram played well. I mean, they have a solid team. I think that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with because right now they're under the salary cap. I presume. I don't think they have any really max players on their team right now. I don't think they do. I'm not sure.
If they do, it's probably Barnes, but they should. I feel like they do have some money to work with.
Yeah, so I think they're gonna be fine. Now,
okay,
you know where we're going now.
Yes,
yes. I'm sure people. I know Keith's looking forward to this. There's that team up on 140 up north. Causeway Street, whatever, wherever they are. I don't like to use their name. But anyway, what do you think about that team? Up 3-1?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's talk about your team. I don't mention the name. But let's talk about your team.
Good. So here's where I guess it was tricky with them this year. Because going into the year, we understood that because of the finances of the NBA, they were a second apron team. And the league has it where if you stay at that level, a lot of your flexibility goes away with each year. Like you can't trade draft picks. You lose your mid-level exceptions. Like those are things that title contending teams, they need that flexibility. So when they moved away from Porzingis and all of them, I understood it was a necessary move. And remember, Tatum tore his Achilles last playoff season against the Knicks. So going into this year, it was Jaylen Brown and a lot of unproven guys. So me as a Celtics fan, I was like, look, if they were a 5-6 seed, I would take that. Because I understood Jaylen Brown is that guy. People like questioning him, no left hand and all this kind of stuff. We talked about this earlier. You look at a guy who every year adds to his game, that is Jaylen Brown. One of the reasons why I absolutely love him as a player. So he changed kind of the narrative by leading them to a 2 seed against a Sixers team that we remember before Paul George got suspended. They were about a 4-5 seed in the East. He gets suspended. I think Embiid started missing games and they sank in the standings. So it wasn't a traditional 2-7 matchup. But look, they were up 3-1. the understanding is you're going to close out. Like they were playing well. Jaylen Brown, Tatum's back now. It's like, okay, close the series out. The biggest problem was Embiid joined that series in like game 3.
Mm-hmm.
And now Celtics fans were faced with, yeah, our center position isn't great. Kata had a great year, but Kata probably should be your backup center, not your starting center. And then you have Garza, who was a guy that was, wasn't used in Minnesota. People remember him from Iowa. He was a Big Ten Player of the Year. I get that, but Minnesota, he was like the 13th guy, barely taking his warm-up off, and now you're expecting him in a playoff series to now combat Joel Embiid. So that's where that series fell apart. I'm not going to say like the Celtics weren't disappointing, because I thought they would win that series in 6. And to see the way that they lost it, where even with Embiid still kind of like hobbled a bit, he was still that much better than Kata and Garza. And then with him on the floor, we saw Maxey at times create a lot of havoc on the perimeter. So for me, like, it wasn't completely devastating that they lost, because in the back of my mind, I was like, I didn't think this team was a title contender this year. Now, them getting the second seed, I think people were turning it into, well, the Eastern Conference is weak. You have Jaylen Brown, you got Tatum back, then you should be the East favorites. I never saw them that way. So them losing the way they did, it wasn't too big of a deal for me. Now, going forward, I would like to see them get a facilitating point guard and a big man. They need a big man that moves Kata to your backup, and Garza can be your depth big. You need a big man that's able to defend a guy like Joel Embiid. Even though the East, there aren't a lot of big men like that, but you kind of need one that can deal with that when you do face him.
So right now you've got 3 big men, correct?
Yes, because they made the trade for Vucevic. Vucevic is like 36 years old. Defense has never been his strong suit. They do need to upgrade from him. He's a free agent. I don't think they bring him back. But it's also a league where the big man is almost an endangered species, so finding that is not necessarily the easiest thing either.
Now, what pick do they have in this year's draft? 20?
It's like mid-20s. And
I know
a lot of the mock draft people are like, they're kind of honing in on the UConn big man, Carabin.
Oh, okay. Oh, he might be.
Get him down there.
He might be around. He might be around. Now, we were talking about coaches and how they make adjustments. I think you know where I'm going with this. So you got the Knicks, who prior to the playoffs were playing terrible, and they get in the playoffs and they lose their first 2 games and they go on a roll. And then, Mike Brown makes an adjustment and says, hey, Towns, we need you to be more of a distributor than, trying to, do all your crazy stuff. And it worked. And then again, also, he said, hey, big body Brunson, man, do something. They're double teaming me. That I'll be a distributor, and I get 14 assists. I'm going basing that on coaching. Now we got the other way, where the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who chooses not to use timeouts, again making adjustments. Harden's getting blasted by big body Brunson. No timeouts, no adjustments, not a damn thing. Now let's go to your Celtics. There's been, even the last couple of years, and kind of why, I'm old fashioned. I'm old school. So maybe that is the reason why I don't really like watching them play too much, is because I recall, and I know you do, there were times when you had everybody outside the paint. You had 2 guys standing in the corner, 2 guys. What I mean by that is they spread the floor so damn much, and it's all well, no, I'm exaggerating. Mostly 3-pointers. Now, when it's going in, oh man, they look like unbeatable.
Yeah.
But when they are not, and you don't make the proper adjustments, what is your take on that?
Look, I completely understand that. This era of too many threes, I get that. The way I look at it is because it is a pace and space type of league, and a lot of these defenses play drop coverage, that you need guys who can knock down the three. So for me, if you take quality threes within your offense where you drive and kick it out, Mark Jackson said this all the time. It's a make or miss league. So if I kick it out to you in the corner, you take that three and you miss it, I can't say it was a bad shot. I would just say you got to knock it down. So that Sixers series, Embiid and Drummond in the middle, they loved to sink down into the paint because they knew if they push up on a pick and roll, neither one of them are great laterally. And if you have Tatum or Brown in that pick and roll, they're going to get eaten alive. Right. So they sank in, and that's where Garza, and maybe it was too much to ask of him because he shot the three well in the regular season. So when he was out on the floor, they would kick it to him. He couldn't really knock down enough threes to drag those big men out of the paint. And that's where I understand Mazzulla's philosophy. It's kind of the way the game is played now where teams are on the perimeter. Big men are sinking into the paint because not a lot of big men want to be on the perimeter. They get lost out there. Because you brought up the Knicks. Because the Knicks, how they destroyed the Sixers was Cat was knocking down threes. Problem is, Embiid's not going out there anyway.
Not at all.
Fine standing at the free throw line and watching big men shoot over him. And that's where the Knicks were able to take advantage of something that the Celtics just couldn't do. So that's why, like, kind of the conversations after the series where it's like, Tatum and Brown, is it time to split them up? I'm not going to overreact because they lost to the Sixers in the first round. Because you look at the rest of the East, it's like Pistons are young. They're coming. They're not here yet. You just mentioned the Cavs. The Cavs are on the verge of probably getting swept out by the Knicks because they have Donovan Mitchell, who's a really good offensive player. I guess to kind of bring it back to the whole Brunson thing and not making adjustments. I watched it and I was like, I felt bad for Harden, but also I was thinking, if I'm Atkinson, what adjustment do I make? I can't put Mitchell on him because Brunson will eat up Mitchell as well because Mitchell's not a good defender. Now, the one adjustment I would say, they would put Dean Wade on Brunson, who's a taller defender, and he would automatically run into the screen and they would switch. That was, if you want to say there's an adjustment to make, Wade has to fight over that screen to stick to Brunson. Because the Knicks weren't hiding what they were going to do. Whoever Harden was guarding was going to set that screen. Harden's going to switch out, and Brunson's going to tell him, get out of my way. I got this. And he just abused James Harden play after play.
You must have been watching my show before because I said exactly that same thing. Exactly. And people were arguing with me. I'm like, you got to fight over the screen because that's what they were doing. You got to fight over that screen because that, but anyway, but I wanted to talk, great answer, by the way. What I wanted to talk about too with the Celtics. Mm-hmm. Now, Kyle, you said live by the three and die by the three. If y'all 0 for 20, don't you think you might want to try to go to the cup?
I mean, that's easier said than done. But that's the problem where Embiid and Drummond just living in the lane. Now when you're driving in there, you have two big men who can defend the front of the rim in your way. So I think perfect world, if they're knocking down enough threes from the perimeter, now when Tatum and Brown beat their defender and they get into the lane, maybe you're only dealing with one defender as opposed to two or three who are willing to close that up and force you to kick it out to Derek White, who was struggling, or Garza, who is inexperienced in all this, or to a Keita guy who Keita catches on the perimeter all he's looking to do is a dribble handoff because he's not a shooter.
Right.
So I think they kind of fell into what the Sixers' game plan was, and it worked for them because they couldn't make enough of those perimeter shots. Look, I completely understand it. If a team's 0 for 20, you're going to sit there and yell at your TV and go like, get to the rim. Sometimes when you do, you run into the trees, and now you're hoping maybe you get a bailout call that if you don't get it 2-3 trips in a row, now you're just frustrated.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. Before we go on to the West, you know, everybody, well, I can't say everybody, but a lot of players are having their own podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Jaylen Brown has his own podcast.
Yep.
And, you know, he went on somebody's show, not this one. I don't think this was his own. And he had mentioned that this was his best year. And I think him saying it caused a lot of dissension out here in Boston. We're here out here, believe me. You know, I'm loving it. As far as, you know, this is your favorite year and Tatum's out.
Mm-hmm.
And you get MVP of the year that you won the championship. You got MVP of the finals. Wouldn't you would think that might be his favorite year? But a team that you guys get beat 3-1, up 3-1, and you go on saying this was your favorite year in the Norfolk. What affected? First of all, do you think he should have went and he could have felt that? Do you think he should have went nationally and said that? And number two, Jaylen Brown had a lot of other players on his show. He didn't have Tatum. I don't know. I'm not trying to make something up. I know that, but he didn't have Tatum. And what effect do you think that the Brad Stevens had to come on these Boston stations out here, the WEEI and all these Boston stations out here, trying to bring the temperature down, because that created a lot of temperature out here. I'm talking about locals. I'm talking about local TV. And they had him to do it. And then Brown had to reciprocate and say, look, me and Stevens get along great. I love being in Boston. I want to be here for another 10 years or whatever. Overall, what is your take on that situation? And how does it look in the locker room? And what do you think about their relationship, Tatum and Brown? And and do you think it might have an effect on what moves Boston makes during this offseason? I hit you with a lot right there, but
no, yeah. And look, I knew that was going to come up. So for me, I have zero problem with guys like Jaylen Brown having their own platform, because a lot of those are like, he'll do late night Twitch streams. He'll kind of talk to Celtics fans who he'll let them ask him questions. Some of the players he's brought on like Jordan Walsh, and they'll break down film together, because Jordan Walsh has said like Jaylen Brown has like taken him under his wing as a kind of long defender, kind of learning, tricks of the trade of being a perimeter defender, stuff like that. I love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I do think nationally, especially with ESPN, they have doubted Tatum and Brown their whole time together. So they saw this as an opportunity to bring up old narratives like they don't like each other. I didn't read that much into it, because Tatum doesn't really do a lot of interviews, and a lot of times when he does them, they're like in the day. Jaylen Brown be on that Twitch stream at like 2 a.m. And you remember Tatum's got 2 kids now. So I think they're just two guys in different walks of life. Like, I think Jaylen Brown has like a girlfriend or something, but he doesn't have kids and anything like that. So for Tatum, who came into the league with a kid, I feel like his, nightlife, as we'll put it, is a lot different than Jaylen Brown's. I don't think there's anything in between them in terms of that. So the Favorite year comment, I also don't have a problem with, because I think he would admit winning the title and winning Finals MVP was his best season. Favorite season this past year was more so nobody expected him to be a number 2 seed. People were looking at that roster and saying, "Oh, Brad is mailing it in. He's not trying to win. How do you get rid of Porzingis and Holiday, Cornette, and all these guys and try to tell us that you're fielding a winning team?" And we saw the development of Hugo Gonzalez, little known guy they drafted out of Real Madrid. He came on. Jordan Walsh was a guy that a lot of Celtics fans are like, I don't see his value on the team. He stepped up in a bigger role. Baylor Shireman, lefty from Creighton, who he took on more of a role. Keita took on more of a role, had one of his best seasons ever. So I think for those guys, Jaylen Brown was talking about, yeah, for me leading that group, he was really happy with seeing how those guys stepped up in a year that if they were a terrible team, people would look at them and say, yeah, it's because those guys aren't good. I think what we learned is a lot of those guys are actually going to be part of the Celtics' future because of their ability to play this past season without Tatum being on the floor.
You know something, Kyle? I wanted to scream, but I can't. I have to agree with that. I wanted it, but man, you kind of got me. I don't really have too much to say about it after that. Kind of burst my bubble here. But do you think one of them should be traded?
No, I think it's an overreaction from people, not only nationally but within Celtics media, that may not have been the biggest fan of Jaylen Brown to begin with. Because remember, he's a guy who came out of Cal Berkeley. Not a lot of people in Boston watch Cal Berkeley basketball. So the draft profile was he'll slash to the rim, not a great shooter.
That's
ball
true.
handling skills are a little iffy. And people looked at that and was like, well, how's he supposed to fit in Boston if he can't shoot and he can't really dribble? And look, early on, he had the highlight dunks and everything. But like I said, every year he came back better and better and better. And I think that there are some people in the national spotlight as well as the local spotlight that don't want to admit that they were wrong on Jaylen Brown. So now they want to use the Twitch stream as the reason to go, yeah, he doesn't like Tatum, doesn't like the organization. Why don't they just get rid of him? And Brad Stevens has stuck by Jaylen Brown. I'm sure you know this and people watching as well. All those years where they're like Kevin Durant for Jaylen Brown, Brad Stevens said, no, not doing it. People thought he was crazy. And then Jaylen Brown wins that Finals MVP. I think Brad Stevens is a big fan of Jaylen Brown. I think Tatum and Brown probably have grown into, I don't know if they're best friends or anything like that, but I think they respect how much they kind of need each other. Where when they were both like, 19 and 20, it's hard to tell two young guys that you need them and they not have one of them go, well, I need to be the best player. And then the other one go, no, I need to be the best player. And then they split up. I think they grown up together. And I think because of that, I'm not getting rid of either one of them.
That's a very good answer. I have to agree with you. Now let's move on because this hour's going by so fast.
Yeah. Let's get to the West.
Yeah, let's get to the West. Denver Nuggets. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people had them getting to the finals as well. And I know Denver's suffered some injuries, like every team has gone through that. Mm-hmm. And if I don't know about you, but I know even watching TV and watching the show, Jokic's names very rarely came up during the regular season, and he had probably his best season ever. And he got 10 votes for MVP. But anyway, what I was saying, do you think Denver's season was a disappointment? And what changes could they or should they make?
I wouldn't call it a disappointment, but I think it should be alarming what happened. Because they won the title a few years ago, and off that title team, they lost some key pieces that played important roles. I think the Bruce Brown loss was the biggest one of them, which made Christian Braun higher up on the depth chart, and I don't think that fits him. He needs to be like that sixth, seventh man. But then you lose Bruce Brown, you lose a couple others, and now Braun's a starter. I don't think that works for them. So I think what Denver has to do is look at this season and go, we have Jokic. We're set there. Murray and Gordon, I think they have to look at those two. I think Gordon's a free agent. He'll probably get a lot of offers. I don't know if I'm Denver, if I necessarily get into a bidding war for Aaron Gordon. He just came off a year where he was hurt a lot of the season. Murray, I think you have to look at him as well because Murray's dealt with injuries, and Murray has had some wildly inconsistent playoff runs.
Yeah,
if you're going forward with Jokic, we know he's not super athletic. The pieces around him have to be clicking because he's a great passer. But if he's going to kick it out to Gordon and Murray, and they're not going to be the Gordon and Murray that we know they can be, they're kind of just hitting their head up against the wall. And we saw this year, we saw a lot of frustrations coming out of Jokic. So if I'm the front office, I don't take that lightly. Like you got to evaluate those two and see if you can't upgrade from one of them at least.
I agree with you. Now, my team.
Okay.
That would be the Los Angeles Lakers. What do you think LeBron's going to do? Do you think he'll take a pay cut? Do you think Reeves might have to go? And what do they need? What do they need to do?
I think what we're going to learn this offseason, a lot of teams are in tricky situations. So the tricky situation for the Lakers is LeBron is obviously for this era, LeBron is that guy. So it'd be difficult for Lakers fans that are LeBron fans to go, we don't need him anymore. He's 41, 42 years old. He's had his career. Let's move on and look post LeBron. I do think they kind of need to do that. But now there is also a problem once you do that. You have Luka now. And Luka's dealt with injuries, but Luka usually plays through them, so I don't really worry about that. It's building a team around Luka. Because Luka made one finals with the Mavericks. We saw the kind of team he had around him. Can the Lakers replicate that out in LA? And that's going to start with Austin Reeves, who I think in today's game, I think he carries high value because of his ability to play from the perimeter and get to the rim. It gets to the line a lot as well for a guy who's not like a great superstar in this league. He finds his way to the line at superstar levels. But he's also had some playoff runs where you see that he plays less than the regular season. And that's the worry. If you give him a bunch of money and he is that, and that's who he is, he's a regular season performer that struggles in the playoffs, then you're just going to be, especially with the way the West is going, you're just going to be a playing team probably. And you can't waste those years with Luka because Luka's a great talent, but he's also more offensively inclined, and you need guys around him to pick up the slack when teams are just going to focus in on him.
Okay. Now, what if ownership goes and sits down with LeBron? Mm-hmm. Hey, man, we want you to stay here, man, but we ain't paying you 50, 60 mil a year.
Yeah.
If you're LeBron, what do you do?
So, I mean, LeBron's come out and said he's going to wait until August. I think he's going to do that because if LeBron's going to re-sign in LA, it's probably going to be for a year or two. So he's going to want in that year or two that the Lakers are going to be a legit contender. So let's just say LeBron's back, Luka's back, and they keep Austin Reeves. Now you have to upgrade the center position. DeAndre Ayton was a failure. He was highly touted out of Arizona. He had a couple of good years in Phoenix, but since the whole blow up with him and Monty Williams, he has not been a guy you can rely on. So they have to upgrade there. I think their bench needs some upgrading because they have a lot of guys on that bench that aren't really consistent. Vanderbilts, Klebers, guys like that. You got to move that out and bring in guys who can contribute night in and night out. Because LeBron at 42 and 43, you're going to need guys who, you can bring in and you don't see the talent drop off so much that it's now turned into Luka going against 5 defenders and try to create miracles. So they kind of have a core going forward, but they do need to upgrade those complementary pieces. I don't think it's good enough right now, even if you brought back LeBron and thinking that you could be a conference finals team next year.
See, folks, this is why I wanted Kyle on my show. He's giving you insight and wisdom. One more team before we go into, the conference finals. Minnesota. It's funny because we on this network, we've been killing towns. We've been killing Softy, Tissue, call him every name of the damn book, Mr. No Show. We've been torturing him, but he's playing pretty damn well. And then the guy he got traded for, Mr. Randall, I don't know what happened. They're talking about he was just uninterested in playing defense, and Stephen A was pointing out all his weaknesses offensively and not playing.
Yeah.
What is your take on the Minnesota Timberwolves and what do they have to do? Let's talk about them going for Giannis, but I don't know.
Randall has to go. Like the reports about him not liking the fact that he was in trade rumors and that kind of killing his vibe with the team. If you're an NBA player and you can't handle your name in trade talks, that's not a guy you need in the locker room.
That's right.
Because the GM's job is to take phone calls. So for Randall, he didn't even know how serious the trade talks were. It could have literally been the team goes, hey, how do you value Julius Randle? What would you give us for him? That doesn't mean it's a serious thing. And if he can't handle that, then yeah, he's got to go. Also, the tricky part is with the expansion, Minnesota might be moving to the East.
That's right.
So if they do that, you kind of have to operate thinking that, yeah, the Thunder and the Spurs may not be going away, but you're getting out of the conference. And now you're in a conference where the Celtics, Cavs, Pistons, Knicks, you might look a lot better over there.
That's true.
I don't think they should do anything too drastic. Randall does have to go. If that report is true, he can't stay in the locker room because that playoff series, when they got eliminated, he could care less whether they won or lost, and that's a problem for me.
That's a major problem. Unbelievable. Now let's talk about tonight's game and the series to begin with. What is your take on different dichotomies in as far as, San Antonio, game number 1, the alien went berserk, 40, 24 rebounds and all that. But they had a 6'5" guy on them. And that's why I think he took advantage of. Now, game number 2, they went and because they were getting a lot of heat. How come Hogan doesn't play the alien? How come he don't play him? He's 7'1". But Hogan's lighter than Wemby. I mean, he got no body. He got nothing. He's like a toothpick. And the fact is too, they're going to need him for his offensive power, even though he's not displaying it thus far. And then they put Hartenstein, whatever his name, and he put a body on him and beat him up all game long. And that was effective because Wemby started going in the perimeter, taking more jump shots because he didn't want to deal with the pain. He didn't want that smoke inside. And what do you think about OKC's injury situation, San Antonio's situation. What do you think's going to happen tonight as far as apparently they let I always come up with cuckoo names, Hottenstein, whatever his name is, Frankenstein. What if they're going to let him do what he did in game 2? Is officiating going to be called differently, which it more than likely will be? What is your take on that whole perception, and how do you think the series is going to turn out?
Yeah, so I mean, game 1, they wanted Holmgren to be like that free safety because I think their fear was if you put Holmgren on Wemby, Wemby probably gets Holmgren in foul trouble, and that's not what the Thunder want. So Wemby took full advantage of it. And we talked about this before, those adjustments. Throwing Hartenstein out there on him as a bigger body to kind of bully Wemby around was effective. But in that process, Hartenstein did get away with some overly physical play. I mean, there's a play that everybody looked at on, I think, the lob where he like pulled his off arm with a no call and Wemby still dunked it. So now it's going to be interesting down in San Antonio now. If Hartenstein is allowed to play that way, if I'm Oklahoma City, I use the same tactic. If early in the game you notice the foul calls are going against Hartenstein, then you got to change it up. And I think for Oklahoma City, it's you almost have to allow Wemby to drop 40 on you. It might hurt your ego, but you let him do that, and you stop the other players from going off. Because unless Wemby's going to score 100, 110 on you, you can live with that if you trust your team and the depth that you have to outscore Wemby 5 against 1. So now, I think they can't be stubborn about it and consistently do the Hartenstein thing until he gets into foul trouble, then want to try to change it up.
Now, what's the status on De'Aaron Fox and Harper? Do you know for tonight's game?
I think Harper is questionable. I think there's a little bit more iffiness around Fox.
Harper and Fox are clear to go.
Okay.
No Williams.
Yes. So Williams for Oklahoma City, he's dealing with. I think we may not see him much the rest of the way. That is big. Fox especially is big for San Antonio.
Yes, absolutely, because he takes the pressure off Castle, who was a walking turnover. I mean, he had 20 in 2 games. As far as JW, what I didn't know, I don't know if you were aware of it. In the middle of the season, regular season, he had his right hamstring was an issue, and he had to take time off. Now, the last 2 times, it's been his left hamstring. So my man, we may not see it for the rest of the series. Now, what is your prediction coming out of the West? And you know what? I'm not saying anything about the East yet because the Cavs are one of the worst away teams in the NBA. They play very well at home. And they are based on their shooting. And Strus was a 0 last night. And so was the other shooters. They weren't effective at all. But I think coming home is going to be a different ball game. I think don't count out Cleveland just yet. They'll like New York fans going 4 games, 4 whatever, sweet whatever. Don't count out Cleveland. But what's your take?
So I have more faith in New York winning in Cleveland than Cleveland winning in New York. I think that series is done. I think the fact that the Knicks are up 2-0, I think that one's over. The West, I think, is very interesting with them both being 1-1. Obviously, Game 3 is a big deal. I think the chess match of the Wemby effect and how the Thunder play it is fascinating. Before the series started, I probably would have told you Thunder in 6. I have a weird feeling I think we get Spurs in 7 to move on to the finals. And we ultimately run into a rematch of 1999 Spurs versus Knicks.
Now, I think Oh no, actually, what do you think? Because it seems like the way it's going so far, San Antonio and Oklahoma City are like rock and sock and robots. They're both teams are taking a beating. Now, if the Knicks, let's say they do sweep, that gives them time to rest and prepare for two teams who, would have been great if they were the finals, them two teams. But one of them's going to lose. And the other one, the team that wins is probably going to be beat up. Mm-hmm. So you think that gives the Knicks a chance to finally win since 1973? You think that gives them a chance?
I think the game plan against each team would be a little different. I think if you're the Knicks, you probably don't want to see the Thunder necessarily. I think it's the Spurs. Their hope would be Cat shoots enough from three that Wemby can't hang around the rim. And then if they can do that, and now you're looking at Brunson maybe going against Fox or Anunoby and Hart. Well, Anunoby's, his health has been a little up and down, but Hart is that guy who loves to crash the boards, get second opportunities. And with the Knicks, if they can do that, that's when they can even get Cat those wide open threes, which are backbreakers for you defensively.
And the next beat,
if you're the Knicks, you would love to see the Spurs. I think you'd have a better chance. It'd still be tough, but I think that's who the Knicks would want to see is the Spurs.
And the Knicks beat San Antonio in the midseason cup. Am I correct?
They did. Yes. Yeah. So in the back of their mind, they know they can play with Wemby in San Antonio.
It's interesting. Kyle, man, I want to thank you for coming on my show.
Absolutely.
Show to do. Otherwise, you and I could talk for hours. But let the people know how they can watch your show, how they get in touch with you, and where to go to watch your show.
So I guess my solo show is Chomping at the Bit. You can find it on Facebook, YouTube, Podbean. I do some shows over on Wire to Wire. I got Passion and Precision, On the Ball, or during football season, Sideline to Sideline. So Facebook or YouTube, you'll most likely see me at some point most of the week live somewhere.
Wow, I didn't know you were doing all that. But you know what, my man, I'm going to call you back on soon. It's been a joy having you on. You my man. Like I said, I enjoyed watching the show. And I think the viewers who are tuning in now will be tuning into your show. So folks, if you get a chance, check my boy out, Kyle Edwards, Chomping at the Bit. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on my show. Peace. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be back on sometime
soon. We're going to do it again. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, folks, that was my man, Kyle Edwards, on my show, Sports Corner with the Conn Man. My guest, Chris Smith, couldn't make it, but, Key and I talked about we're going to try to reschedule him. I don't know what happened, but we'll work on it. I was ready, but we're gonna get him back on. Thank God I had a second guest, Kyle Edwards, and of course the boss chipping in. Kyle, we go at it, but folks, if you had an opportunity to watch this, you can see how knowledgeable Kyle is, and he breaks things down in a very easy way. I mean, we bang heads, we disagree quite a bit, but he gives you food for thought, and I think that's a very important thing. So, folks, my time is up. I want to thank you for tuning in to Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. Tune in next Friday. We have a great show next Friday. Mr. Paul Santos, Supreme Broadcaster, coming on next week, next Friday, Paul J. Santos. So, folks, thank you for tuning in. Take care, and God bless.